Welcome to the show. Mike Sempervive here with you. And as you can tell by my voice, it has been a long weekend, but we have finally arrived. It is WrestleMania. It is going on right now. In fact, if you know anything about WrestleMania and how these things have been timed over the last several years, it started about 6 hours ago. There's 987 people on the pre-show. But I'll keep you updated on what's going down there, especially if you're on the road, out and about. I'll be here with you for the next hour. The men's battle royal looks like it will be up next. We have already had 2 matches. Tony Nese is your new WWE Cruiserweight Champion. That face wash wizard that he uses, the running Nese, the knee strike into the corner, that's what he used to knock off Buddy Murphy in what looked to be a fun match. The women's battle royal just wrapped up. Sarah Logan looked like she was the last one remaining. Carmella rolled in, ended up pitching her out. So a hell of a year for Carmella, how things went, with her winning the SmackDown Women's Championship and being much maligned last year, a couple weekends after WrestleMania. To see her come full circle and to carry out the very plastic-looking trophy that they offer up there. I'll keep you updated on the weather, too, because I don't know how the weather is where you are, but there is a chance of rain at the Meadowlands. 58 degrees. It is overcast. We'll see if everything is able to hold out. And if it doesn't, which will be a first for WWE of modern times, what kind of steps they have to kind of take care of things and make sure the wrestlers are okay. They did a great video that was put up online about the ringmaker for WWE and the heat that's pumped underneath there and some things like that, but everything sounds good until you have to put it to the test. If I ever needed you today, folks, to give me a call, 1-800-878-PLAY. Let me know what you're doing for WrestleMania. New Japan, G1, Bret Hart, a ton of stuff. We'll be back. Happy WrestleMania Day, everybody. Mike Sempervive here with you, Wrestling Observer Live. Brian Alvarez not here with you. Why? Because he is in the crowd somewhere there in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The new Meadowlands, the MetLife Center, MetLife Arena, MetLife Stadium, whatever they call it. It's still always going to be Giant Stadium because I'm old. Stadium was horrible, horrible. There were some bad stadiums up and down the East Coast at one time. Veteran Stadium was a big concrete, just a big circular death bin, just a feelingless stadium. Things have changed. Battle Royal time. Guys starting to hit the ring as I take that back. It's not Battle Royal time. I lied to you, everybody. It's Revival time. Scott Dawson and the man with the hands of stone, Dash Wilder, against Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, Raw Tag Team titles. It will be this match and then the Battle Royal. And then that'll wrap up the pre-show. We'll get on to the main card. I'm sure you have had full weekends. I know I certainly have. 1-800-878-PLAY if you want to tell me about them. The way my voice sounds right now, I'll take it. Get a hold of me on Twitter as well, at Sempervive, at Sports Byline USA. And for all the news and information in professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, and especially on days like this, at WONF4W. After WrestleMania tonight, way late, deep into the night, after Brian Alvarez spends $975 to get home with an Uber that goes about 15 miles, he and Dave Meltzer will do a full post-mortem on the weekend. And, of course, it's not over. We still have Raw tomorrow night and SmackDown on Tuesday, which will be the last live Tuesday SmackDown as it moves to Friday nights in the fall. Dash and Dawson, and Dash, if you haven't heard this story, I will get this out of the way right now. Bret Hart's attacker and an incident last night at the WWE Hall of Fame. I was at the New Japan show at Madison Square Garden, which is why my voice sounds like this, and we'll get to that in a little bit. but there was a buzz that went throughout the crowd because of tweets and the GIF file that was sent out of some idiot in a Rasta hat and a wig running into the ring and into the presentation ceremony and tackling Bret Hart around the waist, knocking over not only him, but Natalia, who was standing there presenting with him as well, honoring Jim the Anvil Neidhart and the Hart Foundation tag team, going into the WWE Hall of Fame. For viewers at home, as soon as this guy got around Bret Hart's waist, the screen went to black. But what we were seeing at the New Japan show and what everybody was seeing online was phone footage and video that came from people in the crowd. And long story short, Zachary Madsen will be arraigned in a Brooklyn, New York court at some point today, if it hasn't already happened, and at this point in the day, I'm sure it has, for his assault on Bret Hart. The guy is 26 years old, and he's going to be charged with 2 counts of third-degree assault, 1 count of criminal trespass, and 1 count of violation of local law following that tackle at the Barclays Center. Bret Hart is 61 years old. He has suffered a stroke. He's been a cancer survivor. His life is very well documented. And it was a disgusting act. That, and I am not one to promote violence, to me received a very, very fitting finish when this kid was dragged from the ring and helped to the back by many of the boys that were very upset, including a bunch of family members who are pretty tough guys, like Tyson Kidd and Teddy Hart and Davey Boy Smith Jr. And I'm sure as everyone wrestling fan has seen by now, the uppercut landed by Dash Wilder, which I had the volume down, but I assumed the Revival with that crowd was going to get a pretty good pop tonight, and I'm sure it was a little bit extra sweet for Dash Wilder. Just a completely ridiculous situation, and apparently the New York Post, if you go to the New York Post online, they've done a deeper dive into this guy's social media account. He obviously, or it shouldn't be obviously, but it certainly seems like he's got mental issues. To me, you got to have a mental issue to go diving into the ring and attacking someone, especially with all of that risk there at your side. But just a pathetic display there last night at the Hall of Fame, marring what really, for the most part, has been nondescript, which is actually okay because it's a Hall of Fame that's there to honor people and give people a chance to talk and give back and speak to their peers again, as well as the fans. I don't need a wacky Hall of Fame ceremony. And I do look forward to seeing it. And last night I was in Madison Square Garden for New Japan and Ring of Honor, and it was certainly a Jekyll and Hyde type of show. Just going to naturally be like that anyway, with Ring of Honor and New Japan working together on a 50-50 show in presentation and in matches. I'll say this. To go out on a limb too far, I don't think I'm doing it. The New Japan side was better. I'll get to that in a minute, but throw it to the phones now, because what else would Sunday be without Ryan in Cumberland, Maryland? Ryan, how are you?
Good. Last night I put a bet on Becky Lynch winning the main event tonight, just putting a beer bet down, and the person I bet it against picked Ronda Rousey, who will get a beer if he chooses the correct winner. So hopefully I get that free beer. Dennis,
hold on now. Wait, hold on. But what happens if Charlotte wins? Do you both get beer? Does no one get a beer?
Nobody gets a beer if Charlotte wins.
What kind of beer are we talking about here? If you won, do you get to? Is there a price range here? Is this just like Busch First Natural Light? Like what are you drinking here? What does Ryan in Cumberland drink when he goes out?
Usually Bud Light, but usually the beer is pretty cheap in Myersville, Pennsylvania, where the beer would be purchased at.
Well, you're doing cheaper. You're doing like a 30-pack, or like you're gonna like bump it up since somebody else has got to pay for it. You're gonna get like a 6-pack in Newcastle or something like that.
No, there's only one can of beer or bottle of beer on the line, but My point is, I noticed you talked about the rain tonight. I saw that they have a giant, structure. It looks like it would shield most of the rain from any bad weather or snow that might come the wrestlers' way. So that's my one question. Will that be enough to protect the wrestlers? And two, do you think that guy that jumped for her was just trying to be like a big douchebag heel in MMA since he failed at MMA, and he thinks that promoters are trying to book him now because he did something that makes everyone hate him now?
Ryan, I want to thank you very much for the call and happy WrestleMania Day. And I'll take that last one first. No, this guy actually legitimately seems like he has a mental problem. Apparently, he's got a 1-2 record in MMA or something like that. But at the age of 26, having just 3 fights here and nothing of note. But I would be very, very doubtful that would happen. When it comes to the ring, though, and they do have because of the way everything is set up, they do kind of have a top to where the lights are over the ring. That is up very, very high. So if there's any wind at all, which there will be, I mean, the wrestlers really aren't going to be protected that much, it doesn't look like. It's certainly going to help out a little bit, especially with the very dead center. Like, it's going to be like a reverse of the old Cowboys Stadium, where you kind of had that little pocket in the middle that'll be protected, but the rest of it, you're going to have a problem. And we'll have to see. I mean, this is something where if they're going to keep running northern cities, and this is going to be a risk for rain anywhere you go in April, but especially in northern cities where there's a chance of snow too, we'll have to see what happens. Like I said earlier on, they have the ring all gimmicked up with heat and some things like that. So they're trying to prepare the best they have, but if things start going south, we'll have to see how it goes. 1-800-878-PLAY is the number. Why don't you join me? It's WrestleMania. Be right back. Still going on right now, WrestleMania pre-show, the Revival, Hawkins and Ryder. Pretty even matchup so far. Zack Ryder's just been tagged in. I think we're probably getting close to the end of this one with about 30 minutes left in the pre-show. And the Battle Royal still left to come. And probably about 75 video packages and tosses to Charlie Caruso. Which actually I'd be okay with that if you've seen her in the yellow dress that she's wearing. A handsome woman she is. Wild night last night, Madison Square Garden. I've been in that building for sports before, never actually for the sport of kings, professional wrestling. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to top what New Japan and ROH did. Now, there's been a lot of, obviously, the wrestling that's taken place in Madison Square Garden. But the old WWF era of that building is now over with. There are going to be other people running the Garden if they can afford to do so. And most times, in reality, they won't be able to do so. But they're going to want to run Madison Square Garden because of the name and because of the prestige that it brings. When you're owned by Sinclair Broadcasting and have major financial backers, as Ring of Honor and New Japan do, those two being able to run Madison Square Garden, there was not a dollar lost. AAA is going to be running it soon. I don't know how this is actually going to be able to be pulled off. It'll be very interesting. But if you have a chance to get in there, you can get in there now. As Dave talked about on Wrestling Observer Radio last night, WWE is not going to be able to stop anybody anymore. The dam has burst, so that's it. Toothpaste out of the tube and all that sort of good stuff. And I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to top what New Japan did last night. And that's even being, in some ways, brought down at times by what was happening on the Ring of Honor side of things. In the main event of the show last night, Kazuchika Okada defeated Jay White to win the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. As the Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, with Kurt Hawkins getting the pin, breaking his loss streak, are your new Raw Tag Team Champions. And the Revival is not happy. Same way Jay White's not happy losing the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And nothing against this tag match. That other one was a lot better. It was a hell of a match, a great match, and a great moment at Madison Square Garden when Okada won. That was a crowd there that Was fine with ROH being there, but that was a New Japan show. A lot to talk about there. A lot to talk about this weekend. Joey Janela's spring break shows. There were the U.S. versus the World WrestleCon shows. Shimmer, Shine, Stardom, WXW, Tokyo Joshi Pro. It seemed like everybody had a show in New York this weekend. Something that probably will not be replicated next year in Tampa just because of logistics. And there were a lot of people who took in a whole lot, and I got a chance to meet a couple of you over the weekend and had a hell of a time doing it. So give me a call and let me know what you think. 1-800-878-PLAY. Steve in Chicago. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Mike. I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm struggling with my voice, friend.
I feel ya. And I would just love to keep piling on to the MSG show. I thought New Japan's showings were excellent as ever, but I am just completely baffled at what Ring of Honor was thinking with a lot of stuff they did. Like, to have a match with Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Sabre that everybody's looking forward to, then to do this dumb work shoot angle with Enzo and Cass to just subdue the crowd and just so they're all too busy talking about whether that match was a work or a shoot instead of, watching what was an absolute barn burner of a match. Like, it's amazing that they had such a huge opportunity to make a lasting impression and in many ways just completely dropped the ball. We're going into the next show with Kelly Klein versus the Beautiful People, the Briscoes versus Enzo and Cass, and Kenny King versus Matt Taven. Like, can you remember, any other promotion, just completely swinging the opposite way when they had, a huge chance to just make a huge jump up in their perception?
They did not put their best foot forward, I don't believe. Now, what do you think about Matt Taven as heavyweight champion? Because for Throwout Cass and some of the other decisions that were made last night, their heavyweight championship is still supposed to be their centerpiece. And that has been Jay Lethal for a long time. One of the reasons it has been Jay Lethal for a long time for people out there who don't follow Ring of Honor is basically because in a lot of people's minds, they just don't have that next guy to pass it to. Some think it might be Jeff Cobb down the line, but Matt Taven has been in this mix along with Marty Scurll now for quite some time. In fact, both of them over a year in the title picture, even dating back to Dalton Castle and his back injury. Where do you stand with Matt Taven, I guess as a talent and also, separately as a heavyweight champion, because he does do a lot of things really great, and I think he does. Yeah. He probably doesn't get his due, but is he a world champion?
Yeah. I don't have too much against Matt Taven. I mean, I'm not personally a big fan, but he doesn't do anything where I think that he's out of his league. He does scream mid-carder right now, but he could grow into it. But I think, considering all the circumstances, in a show of this level that you're not going to get an opportunity to do presumably very often, even with Scurll leaving, this is probably one of those times to, rather than, build to another program, to just give the crowd what they want. And what they clearly wanted to see was a Scurll victory. I mean, even if he's leaving in 2 months, they could have always changed the title a little bit later. I mean, it's not it's not without precedent. They gave CM Punk the title as he was and did the whole summer angle. It's not unprecedented or anything, but I mean, Taven I think is a good heel. I'm not entirely sure if all of it's 100% heel heat, because I do think some are giving him the Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin-esque perception, but it's just one of those things that once again, when you have, when you're running MSG, this is your chance, that nobody's watching TakeOver, nobody's watching WWE right now, and people are desperately gunning for an alternative. You want to make sure that you leave a lasting impression, even if it's maybe not the best long-term, I guess, operation you won't want to pull off,
Absolutely. Steve, I want to thank you very much for the call. I really appreciate you calling in now. WrestleMania, if you're watching, the Battle Royal has begun. Everybody has gotten to the ring. And Michael Che and Colin Jost are walking to the ring. Colin Jost in a Baker Mayfield Browns jersey. Michael Che in a amateur wrestling headgear. See how long they last in there. Right before they made their entrance, Luke Harper strode down to the ring, kind of in back of everybody else. He came back at Access this weekend. He's back in the match. I'm sure we will see him back in the mix within the next couple of weeks here on Raw and on SmackDown. Certainly will be a name bandied about in the Superstar shakeup. Do you attach him to Bray Wyatt? Does Bray Wyatt even come back? Do you put him with Daniel Bryan in the Vintner? Do you actually give him a shot on his own somewhere? We'll have to see what happens. The incident that Steve was talking about last night, and I was in a unique perspective for it, because there was a 4-way tag team match for the IWGP and the IWGP and the ROH World Tag Team titles. It was the Guerrillas of Destiny, Villain Enterprises, which was PCO and Brody King, Evil and Sonata, and the Briscoes. And the match itself was insanity. PCO is PCO. He's if he's able, I don't need to see too many more double power bombs to the floor that he shakes off and bumps on the ring apron and things like that. I know he is making money and is more popular now than at any point in his entire career, and that includes when he was the first time he worked Madison Square Garden or he worked with the WWF. But it is brutal. And the match was wild. And at the end of it, where I was sitting, and I was sitting on the hard cam side 11 rows back from the ring. So where we were, when things started to go down, in that we could not see. We could see people jump down to the ring, but we were just out of view right where the ring apron was. So you couldn't really see what was going on, and you could see something happening with the Briscoes because everybody's standing up and things going on, security over there and bodies everywhere. And you saw this fist fight break out and this blonde hair, and then all of a sudden everybody said, "That's Enzo." And then we got the "F-U Enzo" chant. And then all of a sudden Big Cass came out. After Bully Ray ran down and threw Enzo into the guardrail, then we had Big Cass jump out, because both of them had run down there. We couldn't really see that where we were at. So we're thinking it's a real fight. And you see security looking at each other confused, which is not a surprise in a situation like that. So where we were sitting at the time, we had no clue what was going on. The only thing that was interesting to us was, where were the police? Why was everything going so slow? And what ended up being, and how everything ended up shaking out, it was somebody's idea at Ring of Honor to bring in Enzo and Cass and to get them involved in the mix. Somehow in the tag team division, possibly in a feud with the Briscoes, where for a lot of Ring of Honor fans, there is no babyface. I'm going to grab me a drink of water and then get back to this show and the Battle Royal, which is up next. Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive back here with you. The Battle Royal has begun. Bodies are being flown everywhere. EC3 just tossed out. Titus O'Neil tossed out. Or is that Apollo Crews? I have no idea what's going on here. Just bodies are being tossed out. Bo Dallas. Bodies are being tossed out left and right now by Braun Strowman at a hot clip. For some reason, they delayed the start of this match for a while. I had no idea what was going on there. It seemed like they were playing the Hardy Boys music forever and threw it to the announcers about 75 times. We almost got a face-off of Braun Strowman and Luke Harper, and then the entire crew attacked Braun and Luke. And if you're asking me, why haven't I mentioned Michael Che and Colin Jost? It's because Colin Jost is slinging outside the ring, as heels always do, and hidden under the ring. I assume Michael Che has done that too. I've completely lost track of him, unless he was pitched out early in the mass of bodies that went out. Before I get back to the New Japan show, because there's a lot to talk about there still, as well as the rest of the weekend, throw it back to the phone lines now. Tim in Miami's been waiting a long time. Tim, what's happening?
Happy WrestleMania Sunday, Mike, and I appreciate you playing Hurt for us today.
I appreciate that. I had a blast last night. Met the boss man, Adam Summers. Vinny was there. I got a chance to meet him. A bunch of people, a bunch of listeners and things like that. So it was a successful evening for me. Tampa next year. We'll see how. Hopefully I can make it for a longer trip, although I don't know if New Japan's going to be playing a part of that next year with Ring of Honor, but we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, I'll just real quick give you a couple quick things on last night, a couple quick things on Mania. I wasn't sure because I couldn't see the incident real well on TV, but I wasn't sure if that was Big Cass or if that was Mama Cass, because he does not look like he's been taking care of himself since that incident where he was flopping and twitching in the concourse a couple months ago. That was one thing. Second thing, as the neutralist observer ever, since I don't really watch Ring of Honor or New Japan all that closely, I had very much the same opinion as everybody else. My analogy was New Japan's the NFL and Ring of Honor's the AAF in terms of just the quality of what I saw and who's really the stars that people liked last night. A couple things on Mania. They've already irritated me. Can we have a battle royal finish that isn't that just repetitive, uncreative, false finish of the person who's been outside the ring for like 30 minutes, popping in at the end? I couldn't believe I saw that. And I got a bold prediction for John Cena tonight. I noticed at the Hall of Fame ceremony, he's still sporting that stupid-ass haircut. Well, who's in the building as a Hall of Fame inductee? Brutus, the barber beefcake. I think Cena's getting a haircut tonight.
Ooh. I don't know about that. Tim Miami, well, thank you very much for the call. I really do appreciate it, buddy. I don't know, although as soon as it was mentioned to me, something about like a haircut, I think it was with Elias, and it's like, I can absolutely see that. I don't know about John Cena, although it would be great, especially if you're going to get Cena back for a little bit, or if you want Cena to be beaten up and go away for a while, and then you want to bring him back around the time that SmackDown and the fall season debuts again. Andrade. There's a elimination by Andrade that you are going to want to see on Kalisto, I believe it was. Just a monkey flip over the top rope to the floor, which was very, very impressive. But yeah, as Tim mentioned last night, there is even Ring of Honor fans, if you don't like New Japan and you're partial towards Ring of Honor, it was still hard to deny New Japan last night having the better side of the lineup, and also as well just having a better grasp on what their fans want. Because in the main event, there was some thought that Jay White, it's too early to take the IWGP title off of him. But New Japan knew that there were fans there that desperately wanted to see Okada win that match. And that's what the fans wanted. And Jay White was not going to be in a position of losing anything if he lost. It's just the right thing to do. And that thing was done. And it was huge. Blew the roof off the building. An absolutely unbelievable moment after an absolutely unbelievable match. Conversely, in that latter match, it was time for Jay Lethal after all of this time to drop that title. I remember thinking last year when news came out about Dalton Castle being injured that Marty Scurll could be a possibility to take that title, because I believe it was in Baltimore where they ended up doing the match where it looked like he could lose it. And he was brought up as a possibility. Now he ended up losing it the next night in Fairfax, Virginia to Jay Lethal, which began this reign with Lethal. And as I'm saying this right now, folks, I was distracted by the fact that Braun Strowman just kicked somebody off the ring apron who was performing a suplex on Ali that had Ali hitting the floor not only really hard, but also then having his face bounce into the announce table. Oh, absolutely brutal. We're getting suplex spots on the ring apron in a battle royal. It's ridiculous. The Hardys, Braun Strowman, Andrade, they're the only ones left. And as Andrade pulls a Hurricane Rana off the ring apron on Apollo Crews, he eliminates himself. A very Mil Mascaras moment. Looks like Braun is going to ditch the Hardys right now and keep his eyes on Colin Jost and Michael Che, who will be coming back in the ring for the same lame finish, and here they come, that Tim in Miami was talking about. But I digress there. Arnold Furious on Twitter is a guy who follows me, and I saw a tweet of his last night that kind of says a lot, and says a lot about where Ring of Honor fans were actually at last night. You had a moment in the pre-show in the Honor Rumble where the winner would get a championship match. And it came down to the retiring New Japan legend Jushin Thunder Liger and New Japan all-time legend and NWA and WCW legend, the Great Muta, who made a surprise appearance in what was an incredibly awesome moment. And those two were standing there staring at each other at the end after they got rid of TK O'Ryan and Vinny Marcellia. And then Kenny King, as Arnold Fury said, 44-year-old Kenny King comes diving out from underneath the ring and tosses both out of the ring. And boy, was that not the way to kind of start things up for the Ring of Honor side of things last night. And it didn't get much better there if you look at the women's match between Kelly Klein and Mayu Iwatani, where it is impossible for the two to have a good match with each other. And unfortunately, and I've seen a lot of her, so I hate to do this, I have no animus towards Kelly Klein at all. I have seen a zillion Mayu Iwatani matches. This was not Mayu Iwatani's issue, and it has not been in these matches. The Women of Honor has been a complete disaster. And I don't know, I'm sure this thing started with very noble intentions. I'm sure it did. It has turned out to be not so good. Kelly Klein is not where they need her to be, not only talent-wise, or charisma-wise and connection-wise to the crowd, but just skill-wise. And now she's got no one to work with, because I don't know if this is going to wrap things up for the Stardom kind of connection. But after the match last night, the beautiful people reformed, with Mandy Leon turning heel to team with Velvet Sky and a returning Angelina Love as Allure, where they paint in lipstick a little anarchist A on your forehead after they beat you up, which they did to Kelly Klein last night, who now, I guess, all of a sudden is a babyface, who most of their fans don't really like. It is really bizarre what happened there with that whole division. They do still have Sumi Sakai. I love Sumi Sakai. She should be training people. They got Jenny Rose, who's been there a long time, and I don't, and that's really about it. Sasha Grey, they got a couple of people who they've been looking at in Future of Honor, but I don't even know what to tell you. As Braun Strowman takes Colin Jost and tosses him out to the floor on a bunch of people and wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal 10 minutes away we are from WrestleMania. The title match, there was going to be no win for Ring of Honor there, although I definitely would have pulled the trigger and given the title to Marty Scurll. I don't care that in a couple of months or a year or whatever that he could be joining AEW, and he will be. It's all of his friends are there with a guy spending a lot of money, and I'm sure he's going to get insurance because then he can have one of the 9 million vice president roles there. Cool. He's elite. But who cares? You need to pop things now. Lifeblood did not work out the way it should have because, number one, Juice Robinson, and there's still time to go on this, but Juice Robinson's main gig is certainly not here. It's over in New Japan. And I love Tracy Williams, and they're going to be great. If given the time, and especially in the tag team division, they're going to be good. But Tenille's gone. Finley's hurt. So that whole thing hasn't worked out according to plan. I don't know. I look at a lot of the decisions that they make, and Jeff Cobb is probably going to lose. I don't know if he's going to lose both belts, but he ended up winning the Never title last night from Will Ospreay in what was a hell of a match. And he's also the ROH TV champion. He really is, to me, their best hope. And it's not because I dislike Matt. I like Matt Taven a lot. The same way, and I've talked about it, the same way I like Jay Lethal a lot. It's just in different ways on both those guys, there's something missing with a lot of the fans, that they just don't take them as that other level guy. And they need that guy. And I don't know if they have anybody else right now. Brody King down the line certainly could be that guy if he stays together and stops trying to kill himself in these matches with PCO. But Jeff Cobb seems to be that guy. And I don't want to demean anybody that works for Ring of Honor. I like everybody that works for Ring of Honor, for the most part. And I don't try to hold them to New Japan Standard or WWE or anything else. But there were some serious head scratchers last night. And there were a lot of people and a lot of their hardcore fans that came out of those matches last night just scratching their head. You know, Matt Taven winning that belt, it makes sense. I know people don't like him, but it makes sense. And people don't like the Kingdom, but it makes sense. They've been building towards this for a long time. I just would have preferred Skrull in that spot, and most of the crowd there would have as well. And frankly, with the position that they're in, again, you can... I'm not going to go on the belt as a prop thing because, you know, it meant a little more to me back in my days growing up as a wrestling fan than it did for Brian. But he obviously, absolutely, of course, it is true. There's a pencil that writes the winners of these things. It comes with an eraser. They make decisions. Champions are named. Belts aren't truly won in the ring and shoots. So you could have erased some things last night and put a big happy face on things for your night and given Marty Scurll that title and given the fans there what they wanted. Unfortunately, you didn't. And you got a lot of armchair quarterbacking going on, obviously, not only with me right now, but it's going to be taking place for quite some time for fans of Ring of Honor. 7 minutes away from WrestleMania if you're listening live. Actually, with the network, it's always 7 minutes away if you want it to be. We'll be back. Wrestling Observer Live. All right, back again, closing this thing out, Wrestling Observer Live. I want to thank you very much for joining me. Appreciate you putting up with the voice today. Just want to give everybody out there on the road a chance to keep an ear on what was happening with WrestleMania in the pre-show. We're on to it. Showing the video package right now of the main event. Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. Winner take all. We're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow and for the rest of this week. For all of the news and information, for everything coming out of this show, for everything coming out of the weekend, for updates on the situation with the guy who attacked Bret Hart, with updates on the backlash and the hullabaloo coming out of Ring of Honor and the possible signing and use of Big Cass and Enzo. For everything coming out of New Japan and all of the news there. Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez, WrestlingObserver.com is the place you need to be. Wrestling Observer Radio, late night tonight after WrestleMania. It's going to be awesome. And as I said, we are here with you every single day, and there's going to be a lot to talk about this week. 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific. Sunday, 6 p.m. as always. We are going to be here with you. Special hello for those of you who are listening in on Sirius XM Fight Nation 156. Got to change up your dials here. No more 93, 156. Dan Patrick Radio 211. I'm going to get an ice pack. I'm going to get some lozenges, some tea, all that sort of stuff, and sit down and imbibe myself in WrestleMania, as many of you are. I want to thank you very much for joining me. Brian will be back in a couple days. I'll be back with you tomorrow for all the post-mortem here. For subscribers of the site, like I said, Wrestling Observer Radio is going to be a can't miss tonight, and we will talk to you again after a while.